I'd like to welcome all listeners back to the fifth section of the fourth installment of the analysis of James Joyce Ulysses by County Galway Playwright John Ruane. That's me. Um, um, I'm also a playwright. I've also written 9, 10, 11, also written 11 one-act plays and two full-length plays, which in total is 13 plays. Actually 4 complete nights of theatre. Each night will be approximately 1 hour, 50 minutes each night, with an overall cast of all them plays were added up for actors, actresses of 87 characters. I've been writing for a good number of years. I'm going to Before I go back into Ulysses now again, I'd just like to mention my home village. This recording is coming from my home village of Monavea here, which is approximately 6 miles from Athenry, 15 miles from Galway City, very close to Turlockmore, and about 5 miles from the village of Abbeynockmy. I know I mentioned this before. Monavea, actually, the village of Monavea would be probably most well known for having the widest streets in Europe, and that is factual because years ago in Monavea's history, they used to dry flax here on the greens in front of both streets here in Monavea. The green, when I say about the greens, I mean like they're large lawns and on either side in front of both streets. And then you have a road running down the village of Monavea. So technically and factually, Monavea does have the widest streets in all of Europe. Something all Monavea people are very proud of. And as I said before, we have many landmarks here in Monavea. We got Monavea Castle, which is, about a couple of 100 yards from the village of Monavea. It's just down in Monavea Wood, which is at the top of the village here. And also in the middle of that wood, we've got Monavea Mausoleum, which is it's a fantastic structure architecturally with the stonework here. And actually, a lot of architects and engineers actually come and marvel and study the stonework and the Gothic arches in this mausoleum in Monavea. And stonemasons, a lot of stonemasons come and marvel at the fantastic stonework in Monavea Mausoleum. Also, not too far away from Monavea Mausoleum, also in Monavea Wood is Monavea Ice House. It's a place where they used to underground just to store meat before the time of freezers and whatnot. The local gentry in Monavea at that time and landlords and so on used to store their meat a couple of 100 feet underground. And Monavea Ice House is also a great work of art, a fantastic stone structure as well. And as I mentioned before, Monavea Castle, not too far away, is definitely a sight to behold. And behind Monavea Castle, you also then got Monavea River. The castles in Ireland, usually they were built beside rivers, and Monavea River would be within 100 yards of Monavea Castle. So there's a lot to see in Monavea, and also behind that again, within a few more 100 yards, there's an old peat, going back for thousands of years, a peat turf bog that can be viewed too. That people that wouldn't be acquainted with that could see that as well. And there's also a round tower here in Monavea, which is a fantastic work of art as well. Fantastic structure. And there's many old, and actually in the middle of Monavea there's an old ruined church here with Gothic arches and steeples, another sight to behold. And many people come to visit and view these structures because you would not see the work And these structures nowadays, they go back for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and a lot of people come and take photographs and visit them, and it's like stepping back in time, you know. It's as there's many other historical sites all around the vicinity of Monivea, and even on the outskirts there's old ruined, Protestant churches, Catholic churches, abbeys, old ruined abbeys and ruined monasteries, all around this area here, and also down in around Ebenockmai. There's many, ruined monasteries and fantastic works of art all around this area. Like to say Monivea would be steeped in history would possibly be an understatement, and also the village of Ebenockmai will be steeped in history. And definitely when you visit Ebenockmai, the village of Ebenockmai and the village of Monivea, on leaving, you have been in a place that just goes back in time for hundreds and thousands of years. There's a lot to see in Monivea, and that's something I've only touched on a few of the things to see here at Monivea and also Ebenockmai. There's many other historical sites all over them two areas. Definitely worth paying a visit. So going back into the book again, Ulysses, we're up to page 95. Hopefully this sitting, the same thing we'll possibly get through between 5 and 6 pages. I thought I might get all this in five sittings, but I think it's going to take six sittings, because I'm going again as far as page 102, and that breaks up a chapter, and it's actually I think 4 or 5 pages more than I usually do with each installment, as they say. So diving into the book now. We finished here at with thanks. That's the last 2 words I think I said. So I'll read the 3 previous lines. Well preserved, fat, corpse, gentleman, epicure, invaluable for fruit garden, a bargain, by carcass of William Wilkinson, auditor and accountant, lately deceased, £3 13 and 6 with thanks. I think that's where I finished now. Excuse me. If you hear any deep breathing, Anthony, it's totally it's totally accidental, because this is not a real this is an amateur job, as they say here. So reading on anyway. I'm going to read on. I dare say the soil would be quite fat with corpse manure, bones, flesh, nails, charnel houses, dreadful, turning green and pink, decomposing, rot quick and damp earth, the lean old ones tougher, then a kind of tallowy, kind of a cheese, cheesy is it? Cheesy. Then begin to get black, treacle oozing out of them, then dried up. Death moths, of course the cells or whatever they are go on living, changing about, live forever practically, nothing to feed on themselves. So reading over that again, this is now Leopold Bloom is thinking here, and he's thinking about bodies, in general, being buried after being buried. He's thinking about the cemetery here, and he's thinking, this is what he's thinking. I dare say the soil would be quite fat with corpse manure. Just think about that. Bones, flesh, nails, charnel houses from the bodies, obviously. Dreadful. Turning green and pink. He's more or less saying the bodies would turn green and pink. Turn green and pink. This is Joyce right in here. The meat in the body is possibly pink, blood maybe, decomposing, rot, and then he's thinking rot quick in damp earth, body would. The lean old ones tougher, the lean old ones a bit tougher. Then a kind of a tallowy kind of cheese, that's how they would turn, he's thinking. Then begin to get black, the bodies will eventually get black, treacle oozing out of them. Treacle is like a black liquid, kind of sticky liquid. Trickle oozing out then dried up, the bodies be dried up, death moths, thinking, that's what he's thinking. Of course the cells or whatever they are go on living. So he's also thinking this, well, the cells go on living, I think. That's what he's more or less thinking. Changing about, live forever practically. Nothing, and then he thinks nothing to feed on. They feed on themselves. When there's nothing to feed on, they feed on themselves. Reading on, but they must breed a divil of a lot of maggots. Soil must be simply swirling with them. Your head is simply swirls. Those pretty little seaside girls, he looks cheerful enough over it. Gives him a sense of power seeing all the others go under first. Wonder how he looks at life, cracking his jokes too. Warms the cockles of his heart. The one about the bulletin. Spurgeon went to heaven 4 a.m. this morning, 11 p.m. closing time. Not arrived yet, Peter. So reading back over that again. So now he's thinking here, but they must breed a devil of a lot of maggots. Maggots are like little worms, in this cemetery. Soil must be simply swirling with them. Think about that. Your head is simply swirls. Now he's thinking about the letter from, was it his daughter Millie, or was it the lady that we were kind of figuring that is a pin lady. Your head is simply swirls. I think that's Millie mentioned that in the letter, so he's thinking about that. Those pretty seaside girls. Yes, Millie, his daughter, is down by the seaside in Mullingar town, remember? Now that pops into his head, your head is simply, now you see, as I said before a few times, swirling. The word swirling has, made him think about swirls. Soil must be simply swirling with them. This is the triggering thoughts that I mentioned before. One thought triggers another thought, will trigger another thought. Soil must be simply swirling with them. Your head is simply swirls. Now swirling swirls. Those pretty little seaside girls. You see, one thought, sparks another thought, more or less. Now he's thinking about the caretaker here. What's his name at all? O'Connell, right? O'Connell. He looks cheerful enough over it. Now he's looking here at the caretaker of this graveyard, O'Connell, and he said he looks cheerful enough over it. Gives him a sense of power seeing all the others go under first. So he's thinking it must give this O'Connell, the caretaker, a sense of power seeing all the others go under first. Wonder how he looks at life. Now he's thinking about this caretaker. Wonder how does he look at life? Wonder how he looks at life. Cracking his jokes too. Remember he told a joke to them to kind of cheer them up. Cracking his jokes too warms the cockles of the heart. The one about the bulletin. The one about, what that means is the one about, the joke about the bulletin. So some joke about a bulletin could mean a newspaper, it could mean anything, but there was a joke concerning that. Spurgeon went to heaven 4 a.m. this morning, 11 p.m. closing time, not arrived yet, Peter. I don't really get that as such. I have to do a bit of thinking about that. The dead, now reading on. The dead themselves, the men, anyhow, would like to hear an odd joke. Or the women to know what's in fashion. Let me read that again. The dead themselves, the men, anyhow, would like to hear an odd joke. Or the women to know what's in fashion. Just 1 second, let me read that again. The dead themselves, right? The dead themselves. Now, I was thinking about dead people, who would have died. The men, if they're men, would like to hear an odd joke. Or the women dead women would probably want to hear what's in fashion. What's the latest fashion? I'd say Joyce is correct on that. A juicy pear or ladies' punch, hot, strong, and sweet. Juicy pear. Now he's thinking about a juicy pear, a pear like a fruit, or ladies' punch, like a ladies' drink, punch, like hot whiskey, whatever. Hot, strong, and sweet. Keep out the dank. Now this thought has popped into his head. A juicy pear or ladies' punch would keep out the damp, would keep you warm, like, kind of. You must laugh sometimes, so better do it that way. Gravediggers in Hamlet shows the profound knowledge of the human heart. Daren't joke about the dead for 2 years at least. De Martias nil nisse prisum. You like my pronunciation there? Unpronunciation, more like. Go out of mourning first. Hard to imagine his funeral. Seems a sort of a joke. Read your own obituary. Read your own obituary. Notice they say you'll live longer. Gives you a second wind, a new lease of life. So reading over that again, a juicy, this thought has popped into his head. A juicy pear, ladies punch, hot, strong, and sweet. Keep out the damp. You must laugh sometimes, so better do it that way. That's what he's just thinking in general. And now he's thinking about the gravediggers in Hamlet, the play in Hamlet by Shakespeare. Shows a profound knowledge of the human heart. Daren't joke about the dead. Now he's thinking, you daren't joke about the dead for 2 years at least. He's more or less saying you shouldn't joke about the dead for at least 2 years after they've died, more or less. Then a few words of Latin. Go out of mourning first. So he's thinking he should be out of mourning first. And then he's thinking, now he's thinking about the O'Connell, the caretaker. Hard to imagine his funeral. It's hard to imagine this caretaker's funeral. That's what he's thinking. It seems a sort of a joke. It seems a sort of a joke, this caretaker dying. He died. And then he's thinking, if you read your own obituary notice, they say you live longer. Think about that. If you read your own obituary notice, you'll live longer because you're not dead. Gives you a second wind, a new lease of life. Reading on. How many have you for tomorrow? The caretaker asked. 2, Corny Keller said. 10:30 and 11. The caretaker put the papers in his pocket. The barrow had ceased to trundle. The mourners split and moved to each side of the hole. Stepping with care round the graves, the gravediggers bore the coffin and set its nose on the brink, looping the bands round it. Burying him, we come to bury Caesar. His idea of March or June. He doesn't know who is here nor care. So we know that again. So the caretaker asked Corny Keller, who's the person that brought the coffin basically with the horse and carriage to this graveyard. So he says, how many have you for tomorrow? How many coffins, how many bodies tomorrow? How many have you for tomorrow? How many coffins are you bringing here tomorrow? So Corny Keller answered, 2 bodies, 2 coffins, 2 Corny Keller said, 1 at 10:30 and 1 at 11 o'clock. The caretaker put the papers in his pocket. These are papers probably got to do with the person that has died, Dignam, possibly. The barrow had ceased to trundle. The barrow, they will carry the coffin to this barrow is carrying the coffin right beside where he's going to be buried. The barrow had ceased to trundle. Great writing from Joyce. More or less saying they're at the exact place where they're going to bury him. The barrow had ceased to trundle. You can nearly visualize it stopping there. The mourners split and moved to each side of the grave. So the people following this coffin, they split. They moved to the left and the right hand side of the grave, of the hole, sorry. The mourners split and moved to each side of the hole, stepping with care around the graves. That's what they would do. They would step with care around the other graves close by. The gravediggers bore the coffin. The 4 gravediggers, lifted up the coffin basically, and set its nose on the brink, the nose of the coffin on the brink of the hole, looping the bands round in it. So before they're lowering this coffin, they push like 2 bands, through this coffin where they can lower it down 4 people, 2 on each side, looping the bands around it. Visualize a flattened rope, basically, kind of like that. And that's set his nose on the brink, looping the bands around it to lower into the hole. Now, burying him. They're going to bury him. We come to bury Caesar. Just thinking that from, Caesar is a playwright. His idea of March or June, that's possibly linked to that play of Caesar. He doesn't know who is here nor care. Now he's thinking about here Paddy Dignam, I think, and he's thinking, well, Paddy Dignam doesn't know who's here nor does he care. He doesn't know who is here nor care. Reading on. Now who is that lanky looking galoot over there in the Macintosh? Now who is he, I'd like to know. Now I'll give a trifle to know who he is. Always someone turns up you never dreamt of. A fellow could live On his lonesome all his life, yes he could. Still he'd have to get someone to sod him after he died. Though he might dig his own grave, we all do, only man buries. No ends too. First thing strikes anybody. Bury the dead. Say Robinson Crusoe was true to life. Well, then Friday buried him. Every Friday buries a Thursday, if you come to look at it. Oh, poor Robinson Crusoe, how could you possibly do so? So reading over that again. Okay, were we? Tall. The grave diggers bore the coffin and set his nose on the brink, looping the bands round it. Oh yeah, we read that. Burying him. Caesar, he doesn't know who. Now, who is that lanky-looking galoot over there in the Macintosh? So Leopold Bloom sees a person here at this graveside, one of the mourners, and he doesn't know who he is, and he's calling him a lanky-looking galoot, a tall, thin galoot. A galoot here in Ireland means a galoot, like a fool, kind of. Who is that lanky-looking galoot? Who is that lanky-looking fool, kind of, over there in the Macintosh? In the Macintosh coat. He is a Macintosh coat, huh? And now he's thinking, now who is he, I'd like to know. Now, I'll give a trifle to know who he is. This is like something they would say here in this iron. Who is he? Who is that lad? And then he's thinking, always someone turns up you never dreamt of. There's always someone will turn up for a funeral that you would never dream would turn up for a funeral. And then he's thinking, a fellow could live on his lonesome all his life. He could be living on his lonesome, nobody visiting him all his life. Yes, he could. Still, he'd have to get someone. Then he's thinking, still, he'd have to get someone to sod him after he died, to sod him, to bury him, basically. Though he could dig his own. Then he's thinking, though he could dig his own grave. And then he's thinking, we all do. He's thinking, everybody in life, they all dig. We all do. We all dig our own graves, basically. Think about it. Only man buries. No ends too. Think about no ends possibly here in the ground or whatnot. Something on them lines. First thing strikes anybody. Bury the dead. Say Robinson Crusoe was true to life. Robinson Crusoe from the book. Well, then Friday buried him. He's, Friday was the person with Robinson Crusoe. He said, well, Friday buried him. Every Friday buries a Thursday. Every Friday buries a Thursday, if you come to look at it. More great humour from Joyce there. Oh, poor Robinson Crusoe, how could you possibly do so? Reading on. Poor Dignam, his last lie on the earth in his box. When you think of them all, it does seem a waste of wood. All gnawed through, they could invent a handsome bier with a kind of panel sliding, let it down that way. Aye, but they might object to being buried one out of another, fellows. They're so particular. Lay me in my native earth, bit of clay from the Holy Land, only in a mother and dead-born child ever buried in the one coffin. I see what it means. I see. To protect him as long as possible, even in the earth. The Irishman's house is his coffin. The Irishman's house is his coffin. Embalming and catacombs. Mummies, the same idea. So reading over that again. Poor Dignam, this is the person that's about to be buried. Poor Dignam, his last lie on the earth in his box. His last lie on the earth in his box. When you think of them all, it does seem a waste of wood. So he's more or less saying coffins in general. Isn't it a waste of wood? And then all gnawed through. They all get gnawed through by, whatever. Creepy crawlies in the earth. They all get gnawed through. And then he's thinking, they could invent a handsome bier. A handsome bier is like something got to do with a coffin. With a kind of panel sliding, let it down that way. He's thinking about this will be better than coffins. Aye, but they might object. But then he's thinking, well, the people then, but they might object to being buried out of another fellow's, contraption, more or less. And then he's thinking, they're so particular. Then he's thinking all this. Lay me in my native earth. You'd often hear that. Lay me in my native earth. A bit of clay from the Holy Land. Now he's thinking, only a mother and dead-born child ever buried in the one coffin. I think that is true too, yeah. I see what it means. I see. To protect him, as long as possible to protect him. To protect the mother would be protecting her child to protect him as long as possible, even in the earth. Yes, good writing. Think about that from Joyce. Then he's saying to protect him as long as possible, even in the earth. The mother would be protecting her child in the coffin. Still, the Irishman's house is his coffin. I'm sure Joyce was rolling laughing when he wrote. I'm sure Joyce was rolling laughing when he wrote that. Without a doubt. The Irishman's house is his coffin. That's some Joyce there now. The Irishman's house is his coffin. He may have been thinking about a lot of his fellow writers at that time who were, very envious of Joyce's writing talent. He could have been possibly thinking about them, and they never really gave him the credit at all, in this country. At that time, Joyce wasn't given the credit for his ability at all. So I'm sure Joyce was thinking about that at that time. Embalming in catacombs. Now he's thinking about in general embalming, and people in catacombs, in Egypt and whatnot, mummies and all that. Embalming in catacombs, mummies. Yeah, here we are. It's the same idea that he's thinking all this. Mr. Bloom stood fair back. Mr. Bloom stood fair back, his hat in his hand, counting the bared heads. 12. I'm 13. No, the chap in the Macintosh is 13. Death's number. Where the deuce did he pop out of? He wasn't in the chapel, that I'll swear. Silly superstition, that about 13. Nice soft tweed Ned Lampert has in that suit, tinge of purple. I had one like that when we lived in Lombard Street West. Dressy fellow he was once. Used to change 3 suits in a day. Must get that grey suit of mine turned by Messias. Hello, it's died. His wife I forgot he's not married, or his landlady ought to have picked out those threads for him. And the coffin dived out of sight, eased down by the men straddled on the grave trestles. They struggled up and out and all uncovered. 20. Excuse me. Okay, so Mr. Bloom. One second. Sorry about that. But reading on anyway. Mr. Bloom stood fair back, his hat in his hand now, counting the bared heads. So all the people around this graveside here, before this coffin is about to be buried, they all have their hats taken off, counting the bared heads. That's why he says bared heads. They've all their hats taken off in respect. Now he's counting the heads here. There's 12 people, 12. And then he's thinking, I'm 13. I'm the 13th person. Then he's thinking, no, I'm wrong. That chap in the Macintosh is 13. He's thinking, no, that chap in the Macintosh coat is 13. The lanky galoot. That chap in the Macintosh is 13. Death's number. Now, we all know about 13, Friday the 13th. And he's thinking 13 is death's number. Death's number. Then he's thinking, where the juice did he pop out of? He's more or less saying, where did he come up? Where did he come out of? Where the juice did he pop out of? He wasn't in the chapel. He's thinking he wasn't in the chapel, in that small chapel before they come out to the graveside. He wasn't in the chapel, that I'll swear. And then he's thinking, silly superstition, that about 13. Isn't that a silly superstition about, 13th, Friday the 13th, and so on and so forth, things like that. Now he's looking at Ned Lampert. Nice, soft tweed Ned Lampert has in that suit. So he's looking at Ned Lampert and he's looking at his suit. He said, it's nice, soft tweed in that suit. It's a tinge of purple, a tinge of purple in it. And then he's thinking, I had one like that when we lived in Lombard Street West. So he had a suit exactly like that when they lived in Lombard Street West. Then he's thinking, dressy fellow he once was. So he's thinking, Ned Lampert was a dressy fellow he once was. He used to change 3 suits in a day. He more or less saying Ned Lampert used to wear 3 different suits every day. So he changed his suit 3 times a day. That's what he's more or less saying there. Somebody would have 3 suits on a day would be, more or less saying there, I'm a bit wealthy probably. He used to change 3 suits in a day. He might wear one in the morning, one after lunch, and one in the evening time. Showing off a bit of wealth possibly. He used to change 3 suits in a day. And now he's thinking, must get that grey suit of mine turned by Messias. So he's thinking about a grey suit he has. He must get it turned, possibly cleaned or something. Hello. Now, hello, it's dyed. Now, hello, it's dyed. Now he's looking at Ned Lampert's suit and he's figured out that the suit is dyed. Hello, it's dyed. He's figured out that the suit he's wearing is dyed. That's where the tinge of purple in it. It's dyed. Hello, it's dyed. Visualize that. His wife, I forgot. Now he's thinking, his wife. He's thinking, did the wife dye it? His wife. And then he said, I forgot he's not married. Then he's thinking, no, he's no wife. He's not married. Or his landlady, or maybe his landlady ought to have picked out those threads for him. Or his landlady ought to have picked out those threads for him. So there must be threads on this suit. And it may look a bit tacky, possibly. Or his landlady ought to have picked out those threads for him, the way possibly people would know it's dyed, possibly. Now, this is great writing from Joyce here, even though it sounds a bit crude. The coffin dived out of sight. Typical James Joyce writing here. The coffin dived out of sight. So the coffin, they're lowering the coffin to the ground. The coffin, this is Joyce, being mischievous. Joyce was an unbelievable mischievous writer, as well as being the most humorous writer in the English language or any language ever. Joyce was the most humorous writer, in my opinion, by far. He's just a hilarious writer. And when you read Joyce on your own, if you've got a grasp of what Joyce is talking about, and hopefully people will get some pointers from listening to these recordings, it's only then you will appreciate the non-stop humour in Joyce's writing. And now you will read people, commentators on James Joyce saying the most common. I've read a lot of people, books on James Joyce and so on and so forth, and you may see 2 or 3 words saying, yes, there is some humour in Ulysses. Yes, there is some humour in the Dubliners. At times there's humour. You'll read comments like that. I've just turned the back of this book here. I think there's a comment like that. There is some, yes, there is some humour in Ulysses. Now, somebody that says that, yes, there is some humour in Ulysses, clearly does not understand James Joyce's writing, or clearly has not comprehended his humour. And that's as far as the comments go when it comes to people analysing James Joyce and his writing, saying, there's a vague kind of a, little hint. Yes, there's an odd bit of humour in Ulysses. Take it from me, Ulysses is humour from start to finish, and there's no let up. And there really is no let up in Joyce's humour in all his writing, also in The Dubliners and Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man. Now, the reason I say this, and I'm not trying to go off on a tangent here or anything, basically when I got into writing first, about 18 years ago, I just got into writing by accident. I wrote basically a bit of a small poem, and then I started, maybe I got into writing or into reading. So I asked one of my brothers, I said, give me a few names of a few Irish writers, and he mentioned James Joyce, and he mentioned James Joyce's book, The Dubliners, book of short stories. So I bought that book, and I remember when I was in New York, going to work on the bus and reading James Joyce's Dubliners, and I bust out laughing a few times on the bus, and people were turning around looking at me like saying, oh, he must be crazy, this guy. But I was laughing at the non-stop humour in Joyce's Dubliners, his book of short stories. Every story is full of humour. It's just, and it is laugh out loud. You hear about writers laugh out loud funny, but all Joyce's writing is laugh out loud funny. So if you hear people saying, yes, there is some humour in Ulysses, just figure out that really they don't fully understand Joyce. Joyce is the most humorous. Joyce's humour is non-stop. He's definitely by far the most humorous writer ever. So there's a lot of Joyce commentators out there saying, and they haven't given Joyce any credit for his humour at all, as far as I can see, So here we are, going back to the book again. The coffin dived out of sight. So the coffin has been lowered into the hole, eased down by the men straddled on the grave trestles. So these are the people that are lowering the coffin into the ground, eased down by the men straddled on the grave trestles. Straddled, that's just grave writing, the way it's described there. They struggled up and out, and all uncovered. Now, the four people that have lowered this coffin into the ground, they struggled up and out, and all uncovered. And now here we are back to this again. We've come across this a few times. Uncovered, they all took off their hats. The four people that were burying or lowering the coffin into the ground, they had their hats on, and when the coffin had been lowered to the bottom of the hole, they all took off the four of them took off their hats, and all uncovered. They all uncovered, took off their hats. 20. 4, 12, 20. 20, pause. 20. No, I'm trying to figure out what do they mean by 20 there. I don't know what it actually is Joyce is referring to there when he says 20. It could possibly be that Leopold Bloom is thinking there's 12 mourners, 12 mourners, 12 mourners, 30. I don't know what he means by 20, to be honest. I have to think about that. Well, listeners, you can think for yourself and come up with that now, you know. This is this is the beauty of Joyce's writing too. You know, Joyce has your visual intelligence, constantly thinking all the time. You know, that's just Joyce's great writing. You know, you have to be thinking as well. You visualizing everything in your mind clearly, or as clearly as you can. So, but what he means by 20, the struggle up and out and all uncovered. 20. There is a possibility Leopold Bloom could be thinking about like 20 gun salute, possibly. But I'm not sure. I wouldn't say so. Pause. Now reading on. If we were all suddenly somebody else, fare away a donkey braid, rain, no such as. Never see a dead one, they say. Shame of death, they hide. Also poor Papa went away. Gentle sweet air blew round the bared heads in a whisper. The boy by the grave head held his wreath with both hands, staring quietly in the black open space. Mr. Bloom moved behind the portly, kindly caretaker, well cut frock coat, weighing them up perhaps to see who will go next. Well, it is a long rest. Feel no more. It's the moment you feel. It must be damned unpleasant. Can't believe it at first. Mistake. Must be somebody else. Try the house opposite. Wait. I wanted to. I haven't yet. Then darkened. Death chamber. Light they want. Whispering round you. Would you like to see a priest? Then rambling and wandering. Delirium all you hid all your life. The death struggle. His sleep is not natural. Press his lower eyelid. Watching. Is his nose pointed? Is his jaw sinking? Are the soles of his feet yellow? Pull the pillow away and finish it off on the ground, since he's doomed. Devil in that picture of sinner's death, showing him a woman, dying to embrace her in his suit. Last act of Lucia, shall I never more behold thee? Bam expires, gone at last. People talk about him a bit. Forget you, don't forget to pray for him. Remember him in your prayers, even Parnell, Ivy Day dying out. Then they follow, dropping into a hole one after the other. So a long paragraph there, So going back over that now again. Okay, 20. That bears thinking about now, listeners. Pause. So there was a pause here. Possibly a prayer being said. Now Leopold Bloom is thinking, if we were all suddenly somebody else. This is what he's thinking in his mind. Now, Joyce has entered, here again, the writer. Fare away a donkey braid, like a donkey. People now in cities that wouldn't be familiar with donkeys and such, wouldn't have come from the country, like me. Donkey braids, you know, donkey kind of lets out a big roar and a shout. You know, not a shout, I was saying a shout, like he haws, you know, I'm sure you've seen it in television. That's what braids is. Fare away donkey braid, rain. Now Leopold Bloom is thinking, yes, when you hear a donkey braying, it could mean rain. Um, no such S. Another name for a donkey is an S, not the S people are thinking about. No such S. Another name for a donkey in Ireland is S. Um, never. Now he's thinking. Never see a dead one. I think you never see a dead one. Um, I'm not sure about this, but I think when a donkey dies, or a donkey dies, you never see him. You never see a dead donkey. They say it is possible. Shame of death, so they hide. Also, now before I get to that, shame of death, they hide. So I think when a donkey dies, you never see him dead in the middle of a field. I think he hides under a tree or beside a wall or in a corner or something. Never see a dead one, they say. You never see a dead donkey. Shame of death. They hide. So they hide, and I think that is I think that is true. No, I'm not sure about this, but it could possibly be true that when donkeys die, they hide in a corner or they hide under a tree or something. It's very possible. Now, donkeys would be very significant in the Bible because Jesus rode in the donkey, in the New Testament and all that. And I mean, I think most people would be aware that on the top of a donkey there's a cross, going down all along him and across his shoulders, like it is a cross, and you can see it in any donkey. There is a cross. So, donkeys are very significant there in that sense. They hide. No, so donkeys hide. Also, poor Peppy went away. So also poor Papa. Now Leopold Bloom is thinking about his father. He died. Gentle sweet air blew round the bared heads in a whisper. That's great writing from Joyce. Gentle sweet air. So all these mourners are there, and a gentle breeze just blew about their heads. Gentle sweet air blew round the bared heads of their hats off in a whisper. Whisper. The boy by the grave head, the son of Paddy Dignam, held his wreath with both hands, staring quietly in the blank open space. This is the whole. Now you can really visualize that from Joyce. He's capturing the whole picture. He's painting the whole picture here. The boy by the grave head held his wreath. This is a flowery thing, round thing with the flowers on it, and ferns and so on, with both hands staring quietly in the black open space. Mr. Bloom moved behind the portly, kindly caretaker, O'Connell. Now he's well-cut, smart. Now Leopold Bloom has started to think right here. Well-cut frock coat. He's thinking about this caretaker of this graveyard, O'Connell. He's got a well-cut frock coat. Now he's thinking about this caretaker, O'Connell, is weighing them up perhaps to see who will be next. He's weighing them up to see who will be next. What that means is Leopold Bloom is thinking, now this caretaker is looking at everybody around this gravesite, and he's looking at each one. He's wondering which one is going to die next. Weighing them up. That's what weighing them up here. Weighing them up would be an expression here in Ireland saying weighing them up. He's looking to see who is going to die next. Weighing them up perhaps to see who will be next. Who will go next. Who will die next. Well, it is a long rest. Thinking about when you die possibly. Feel no more. It's the moment. Now he's thinking you feel no more. After you die. It's the moment you feel. It's the moment you're about to die. That's when you feel. It's the moment you feel. And then he's thinking, must be damned unpleasant. It must be damned unpleasant when you know you're just about to die. Can't believe it at first. You cannot believe it at first when you know you're just about to die. You cannot believe it at first. And you're thinking, mistake. It must be someone else. I can't die now. It must be somebody else. And then he's thinking, try the house opposite. Try the house opposite. Wait, I wanted to. I haven't yet. I wanted to. Wait, and then he's thinking, wait, no, I don't want to die. Kind of, I wanted to. I haven't yet. That kind of along them same lines. Thin, darkened death chamber. This is when you die. Thin, darkened death chamber. Light. Then he's thinking, light they want. They don't want it darkened. They want light. Then he's thinking, whispering around you. When you're dead or about to die, whispering around you. There'll be people around you whispering around you. Would you? And they'll be saying, would you like to see a priest? Then you would hear, then rambling and wandering. possibly the person dying. Then they'll be rambling and wandering. Yeah, okay. The person about to die would be rambling and wandering. Be rambling, crazy talk, whatnot, and wandering. Delirium all you did, delirium all you hid all your life. So all this, you'll be saying things, on your deathbed, basically. Delirium all you hid all your life. The death struggle. This is before you die. He's thinking. His sleep. Now he's thinking. Now he's thinking here. The people around you, this you see you're about to die. They would be saying his sleep is not natural. Now press his lower eyelid. Watching is his nose pointed, is his jaw sinking, are the soles of his feet yellow. This is the people around the person that's about to die that would be saying these things. And they'd be saying, pull the pillow away and finish it off on the ground since he's doomed. Pull the pillow away and finish it off on the floor since he's doomed. More or less saying, pull the pillow from under his head there and, smother him on the floor possibly since he's already doomed, more or less. Devil in that picture of sinner's death showing him a woman. Now he's thinking about some kind of a picture here, picture, painting, whatnot. Dying to embrace her in his shirt. Last act of Lucia. Now if we knew what that picture is about, we could figure that out. Shall I never more behold thee? Bam, expires, gone at last. Then he's thinking, when you die, people talk about you a bit after you die, and then they forget you. Don't forget to pray for him. Remember him in your prayers. Even Parnell, Charles Stewart Parnell, who James Joyce's father were big fans of Charles Stewart Parnell, who was a huge figure in Irish history. Charles Stewart Parnell, he'd done a lot for Irish people, and Joyce was a big fan of him. Even Parnell, Ivy Day dying out. So there was a special day dedicated to Charles Stewart Parnell here called Ivy Day, it was called. And now he's thinking Ivy Day is dying out now. Then they follow, dropping into a hole one after the other. That's the people in general. He's thinking, dropping into a hole one after the other. Reading on. We are praying now for the repose of his soul, hoping you're well and not in hell. Nice change of air out of the frying pan of life into the fire of purgatory. Do they ever think of the hole waiting for himself? They say you do when you shiver in the sun. Someone walking over it, called by his warning, near you. Mind over there towards Finglas, the plot I bought. Mama, poor Mama, and little Rudy. So reading over that again. We are praying now. So Leopold Bloom is thinking all this at the graveside. This is all in his mind, and all his thoughts are being put on paper by Joyce here. This is, I think, what they refer to the streamline of consciousness, we are praying now for the repose of his soul. He's thinking all these thoughts, about a person in general that would have died. Hoping you're well and not, we're hoping you're well and not in hell. See the poetry from Joyce here? Hoping you're well and not in hell. We're hoping you're well and not in hell. Nice change of air. It'll be a nice change of air when you die, out of the frying pan of life into the fire of purgatory. Now, purgatory is, when you die. In the Catholic faith, they believe that when you die, there's not too many people go straight to heaven. A lot of people will go to a place called purgatory, which is a waiting time where you could be there for years, months, hours, whatever. I'm not really sure. And you're basically, purgatory would be, I think it's a pretty hot place, not as hot as hell, I don't think, but you basically have to, you're purged of your sins, I think, out of the frying pan of life into the fire of purgatory. That's what Joyce is referring to there. There's the fire of purgatory too. And after so many, whatever, a certain time, then you go to heaven. That's what Catholics believe. Does he ever think of the whole waiting for himself? Now Leopold Bloom is thinking about this caretaker O'Connell. Does he ever think of the whole waiting for him? The whole when he dies? They say you do. Now he's thinking in general. They say you do. You do think about when you shiver in the sun. Excuse me. No, that's good, right? Great rhyming Joyce there. They say you do when you shiver in the sun. So he's thinking, people in general, if you ever shiver in the sun, it means you're going to die soon. That's what Joyce is saying. They say you do. You do think about your own hole, your coffin, or your own death whenever they say you do when you shiver in the sun. So if the sun is out on a hot day and you're shivering, that's not far away. This is Joyce insinuating. Someone walking over it. Now, this is very significant here, I think. Someone walking over it. So he's more or less saying here when a person is buried in the ground, somebody walking over the ground on top. And I'm kind of thinking here now about a very famous song called Denny By, which I think most people would know about Denny By. And Denny By, that's the last few lines in the song Denny By, when I hear you walking above me, and then I will sleep in peace, something along them lines. So, did the idea come from this? It's possible, someone walking over it. It may not be, but I'm just, putting that out there. So, someone walking over it. So, you're dead and there's somebody walking over you, and it brings to mind that song Denny By, and the idea could have possibly come from reading that line, someone walking over it. Call by his warning near you. Call by his warning near you. Not sure about that, but something along them lines. Mine over there towards Finglas. Now, Leopold Bloom is thinking, my graveside, where I'm going to be buried, is over there. Mine over there. My grave plot, mine over there towards Finglas. So that's where he's going to be buried. It's mine over there towards Finglas is a place in Dublin. So he's obviously looking in a certain direction, and he's saying mine is over there. The place I'm going to be buried is over there towards Finglas. The plot I bought, so the plot bought to be buried. Mama, poor Mama. Now he's thinking about his mother. Mama, poor Mama. He's thinking about his mother, who's dead also. And little Rudy. This is his young son that died as well. And little Rudy's thinking about him as well. Reading on. The gravediggers took up their spades and flung heavy clods of clay in on the coffin. Mr. Bloom turned his face. And if he was alive all the time, who? By jingo, that would be awful. No, he is dead. Of course he is dead. Monday he died. They ought to have some kind of law. They ought to have some law to pierce the heart and make sure or an electric shock or an electric clock or a telephone in the coffin, and some kind of a canvas air hole. Flag of distress, 3 days, rather long to keep them in summer. Just as well to get shut of them as soon as you are sure they are not. So reading over that again. No. The grave diggers took their spades. Spades are like kind of shovels, and the grave diggers took their spades and flung heavy clods of clay in on the coffin. So the 4 people here that lifted the coffin and lowered down the coffin, now they are throwing, dirt in on top of the coffin. The gravediggers took up their spades and flung heavy clods of clay in on a coffin. Now that line in particular, I am thinking here now, there was a very famous poem by a famous poet here in Ireland, and I definitely think he got the idea for his poem from that line there. The gravediggers took up their spades and flung heavy clods of clay in on the coffin. Yes, without a doubt, he got the idea for his poem from reading that line there. Mr. Bloom turned his face. Now, Mr. Bloom turned his face away, kind of. He didn't want to see the clay being thrown in on top of the coffin a bit more, but he's thinking probably. And if he was alive all the time. Now, Leopold Bloom is thinking, what if Paddy Dignan was alive here and we're burying him alive? And if he was alive all the time, woo, by jingo, that would be awful. He's thinking, if he's still alive, imagine we're burying him here. And if he was alive all the time, woo, by jingo, that would be awful. No, he is dead. Of course he is dead. Monday he died. And then he's thinking, they ought to have some law to pierce the heart and make sure. They ought to have some law to pierce the heart and make sure he's dead. Pierce the heart with a stake or something, or a knife. They ought to have some law to pierce the heart to make sure he's dead, and make sure he's dead, or an electric clock, or an electric clock. That's an electric clock. I mean, an electric clock. And was there electricity in when this book was written in the early 1900s? I'm not even sure. And I make sure an electric clock or a telephone in the coffin. He's more or less saying they should have an electric clock or a telephone in the coffin and some kind of a canvas air hole. And maybe they should have an air hole in the coffin. Flag of distress, so he could put up a flag saying, no, I'm not dead, I'm still alive. 3 days. Now he's thinking 3 days. That's great humour from Joyce there. It's a lot funnier if you're just reading it on your own. Basically, it's very humorous when you actually understand, understand exactly what's going on, kind of. Flag of distress, 3 days. Now, 3 days. Since Paddy Dignam died, it seemed like it's been 3 days since they actually put him into the ground. So he died probably 3 days ago. 3 days. Rather long to keep them in summer. Now he's thinking this is a long time for a body to be lying around in summer. Rather long to keep them in summer. Just as well to get shut of them as soon as you're sure there's no life in them. Now he's thinking it's just as well to get shut of them, to bury them basically as soon as you're sure there's no life in them basically. Bury them as soon as possible. Reading on, the clay fell softer, begin to be forgotten, out of sight, out of mind. The caretaker moved away a few paces and put on his hat. Had enough of it. The mourners took heart of grace one by one, covering themselves without show. Mr. Bloom put on his hat and saw the portly figure make its way deftly through the maze of graves. Quietly sure of his ground, he traversed the dismal fields. So reading that again. The clay fell softer. So the clay, these grave diggers are, still piling in clay on top of the coffin. Begin to be forgotten. Now he's thinking this person will soon be forgotten. Out of sight, out of mind. Now that's a very common expression even today in the world, not just in Ireland. Well, it's a hugely common expression here in Ireland. Out of sight, out of mind. You'd hear people saying it all the time. Out of sight, out of mind. It's probably common in other countries like England too, I'm sure, and America and other countries, Germany, France, wherever. Now they use a different language, obviously in Germany and France, but different countries. Out of sight, out of mind. Did Joyce coin this phrase? Is very possible. Out of sight, out of mind. The caretaker moved away a few paces and put on his hat. Now the caretaker O'Connell has moved away from the hole a few paces and put on his hat. Now Leopold Bloom's thinking he's had enough of it. The mourners took heart of grace one by one, covering themselves with show. Covering themselves with show. Well, yes, we've definitely got that right. Covering themselves without show, without showing off, kind of basically. Covering themselves, putting on their hats. Mr. Bloom put on his hat and saw the portly figure make its way deftly through the maze of graves. Now the portly figure is O'Connell, the caretaker here. Mr. Bloom put on his hat and saw the portly figure, which is O'Connell, the caretaker, make its way deftly. Portly figure make its way deftly through the maze of graves. So this caretaker is moving deftly through the maze of graves. Quietly, sure of his ground. Why is he sure of his ground? Because he knows this graveyard inside out basically. He traversed the dismal fields. The dismal fields. Reading on. Just 1 second now here. Check the time. Okay. Hines jotting down something in his notebook. The names, but he knows them all. No, coming to me. I am just taking the names, Hines said below his breath. What is your Christian name? I am not sure. Mr. Bloom said. Leopold. And you might put down Mackay. Mackay's name too. He asked me to. Charlie, Hines said, writing. I know. He was on the Freeman once. So he was before he got the job in the morgue under Lewis Byrne. Good idea post-mortem for doctors. Find out what they imagine they know. Find out what they imagine they know. He died of a Tuesday. Got the run. Lee vented with the cash of a few ads. Charlie, you're my darling. That was why he asked me to. Oh well, does no harm. I saw to that, Mackay. Thanks, old chap. Much obliged. Leave him under an obligation. Costs nothing. So reading over that again. Um, to do dismal. Okay, he traversed the dismal fields because he knows this graveyard inside out. Now Heinz, the person called Heinz, coming around here and he's jotting down the names of the mourners, the people at the funeral, basically to probably present to the wife and family later on. Heinz jotting down something in his notebook. The names. Leopold Bloom's thinking, he's jotting down the names of the mourners here. The names, but he knows them all. Now he's thinking, but he knows them all. Why is he, no, coming to me? So he's coming over to Leopold Bloom, and now this he speaks here, Heinz. I am just taking the names, Heinz said below his breath, quietly, of course, in the graveyard. What is your Christian name? I'm not sure, he said to Leopold Bloom. What is your Christian name? L, Mr. Bloom said, Leopold. And you might put down Mackay's name too. He asked me to. So remember earlier on in the book when Leopold Bloom met Mackay in the street, and he asked him to put down his name at the funeral because he couldn't go to the funeral, but he asked him to put down his name, pretending he was at the funeral, basically. And you might put down Mackay's name too. He asked me to. So they're going to put down Mackay's name here, pretending he was at this funeral when he wasn't. And you might put down Mackay's name too. He asked me to. Charlie, Heinz said, writing. So Heinz knows this Mackay, and he knows his first name is Charlie. Charlie, Heinz said, writing. I know this Mackay. His first name is Charlie. Charlie, Heinz said, writing. I know. He was on the Freeman once. So the Freeman, I think, is a newspaper, and Heinz here is saying, yes, I know this Charlie Mackay. He worked in the Freeman newspaper once. He was on the Freeman once. So he was before he got a job in the morgue under Lewis Burden. So he worked in this Freeman newspaper before he got a job working in a morgue under Lewis Byrne. Now, I think it's a Leopold Bloom actually thinking here. So he was, Leopold Bloom was starting to think here now. But he was before he got a job in the morgue under Lewis Byrne. And now Leopold Bloom is thinking here. It's a good idea to have a post-mortem for doctors. Find out what they imagine they know. So the doctors will find out what they imagine they know. That's great writing, Joyce. And more of his humour. He died of a Tuesday. Got the run. Levanted with the cash of a few ads. Something got to do with the advertising here in the papers. Charlie, you're my darling. This is Mackay's name is Charlie. I think you're my darling. Just thinking that was why he asked me to. Put down his name. Probably. Oh well, does no. They saying, oh well, it does no harm to put down his name. So what? Kind of. I saw to that, Mackay. Mackay. Thanks. So now he's thinking what Mackay would say to him. When he meets Mackay again, he'll say, "Yeah, put down your name, Mackay. I saw to that. I took care of that. Thanks, old chap. Much obliged." Now he's thinking, this is what Mackay would possibly reply to him. Thanks, old chap. Much obliged. Leave him under an obligation. Costs nothing. So leave him under an obligation. So this Mackay would kind of owe him a favour, basically. Leave him under an obligation. Costs nothing. And it costs him. Leopold Bloom was thinking, it really costs me nothing, Put down his name at this funeral. Reading on. And tell me, Heinz said, do you know that fellow was over there in the... He looked around. Mackintosh, yes, I saw him, Mr. Bloom said. Where is he now? Mackintosh, Heinz said, scribbling. I don't know who he is. Is that his name? He moved away, looking about him. No, Mr. Bloom began, turning and stopping. I say, Heinz. Didn't hear. What? Where has he disappeared to? Not a sign. Well, of all that, has anybody here seen Kewl become invisible? Good Lord, what became of him? A seventh gravedigger came beside Mr. Bloom to take up an idle spade. Oh, excuse me. Reading back over that again. So, okay, what are we talking? Okay, and tell us, that's a real Irish expression, and tell us, will you? And tell us. See the way Joyce has really captured all the Irish expressions in Ulysses here, and a lot of hundreds of Irish sayings are going to appear in this book as we continue on as well. Like a lot of the old Irish sayings too, you know. And tell us, Heinz says, and tell us. Heinz said, "Do you know that fellow in the? Do you know that fellow in the? Fellow was over there in the." So there's someone here he doesn't know, and he's, "Do you know that fellow in the? Fellow was over there in the." Great dialogue from Joyce here. He looked around. So Leopold Bloom and Heinz have possibly looked around. Mackintosh, I saw him, Bloom said. Mackintosh, yes, I saw him, Mr. Bloom said. Where is he now? So Leopold Bloom has said, you mean the person wearing the Mackintosh coat? This is what he said. Mackintosh, yeah, the person wearing the Mackintosh coat. Yes, I saw him, Mr. Bloom said. Where is he now? So they can't find this person wearing the Mackintosh coat. So Mackintosh, Heinz said, scribbling. I don't know who he is. Is that his name? So Heinz has wrote down the name Mackintosh because he thinks his surname is Mackintosh, when in actual fact he was wearing a Mackintosh coat. This is Joyce's humour here. Mackintosh, yes, I saw him, Mr. Bloom said. Where is he now? You mean the person wearing the Mackintosh coat? And so Heinz thinks he said, you know, his name is Mackintosh, his surname is Mackintosh. So Heinz wrote down Mackintosh, Heinz said, scribbling down. I don't know who he is. He doesn't know who he is. Is that his name? Is Mackintosh his name? He moved away looking about him. So Heinz has moved away looking about him. And Mr. Bloom was answering, no, Mr. Bloom began, turning and stopping. I say Heinz. So he said, no, Mr. Bloom, no, that's not his name. He's about to say, no, Mr. Bloom began, turning and stopping. I say Heinz, that's not his name. He was just wearing the Mackintosh coat. And then he's thinking, didn't hear. So Heinz has gone off and he's wrote down Mackintosh. Didn't hear him. What? Where has he disappeared to? Not a sign. There's not a sign of him. I can't see him anywhere. Another great Irish expression here. There's not a sign of him. Not a sign of her. You know. Well, of all the, that's like a broken sentence there. Well, of all the, things that could happen, basically, it means, has anybody here seen, now, you can just visualize Leopold Bloom looking around for Heinz. Where did he go to? Well, of all the, has anybody here seen, and he's thinking about that person, the mouth organ, or the person playing that kind of an organ thing on the street, the song he was singing, he's thinking about that song now. Has anybody here seen KWL? So he's looking around, become invisible. Now he can't see him. Good Lord, what became of him? What became of him? Where did he go to, basically? Reading on, a seventh grave digger came beside Mr. Bloom to take up an idle spade. Oh, excuse me, he stepped aside nimbly. Clay brown, damp, began to be seen in the hole. It rose, nearly over. A mound of damp clods rose, and the gravediggers rested their spades, all uncovered again for a few instants. The boy popped his reed against the corner, the brother-in-law his on a lump. The gravediggers put on their caps and carried their earthly spades toward the barrow. They knocked the blades lightly on the turf. Clean, one bent to pluck from the if haft a long tuft of grass, one leaving his mates. Walked slowly on with shouldered weapon, its blade blue glancing. Silently at the grave head, another coiled the coffin band, his navel cord. The brother-in-law, turning away, placed something in his free hand. Thanks in silence. Sorry, sir. Trouble. Head shake. I know that. For yourself, just. The mourners moved away slowly, without aim, by devious paths, staying a while to read a name on a tomb. So reading over that again. A seventh gravedigger came beside Mr. Bloom to take up an idle spade. So a seventh gravedigger, took up a spade like a shovel thing. Oh, excuse me, he said to him. He stepped aside nimbly, Bloom possibly. Clay brown, damp, began to be seen in the hole. So they're filling up this grave. It rose. Now the clay rose up in the hole. It rose. Great imagery from Joyce. Nearly over. This hole is nearly filled up with clay. Nearly over. A mound of damp clods rose, and the gravediggers rested their spades. The hole is filled up. A mound of damp clods. Yes, the clods of earth are damp. A mound of damp clods rose, and the gravediggers rested their spades. They're finished filling the hole. All uncovered again for a few instants. All uncovered again they all took off their hats again because they're obviously they're perspiring and whatnot. Hard work obviously. All uncovered again for a few instants. Took off their hats. To get their breath back basically. The boy popped the wreath against the corner. So the boy, the son of Peddington, popped his wreath against the corner. He left it in a corner. The brother-in-law, his on a lump, left his wreath on a lump, probably a lump of clay on the top of the. The boy popped his wreath against the corner of the grave, and the brother-in-law, his on a lump, like a lump of clay on top of the grave. The gravediggers put on their caps. Yes, he uncovered. Put on their caps. The gravediggers put on their caps and carried their earthly spades towards the barrow. That's a great imagery from Joyce there. Towards the barrow. They knocked the blades. No, they knocked the blades lightly on the turf. So they knocked the blades of the spades, to get rid of the clay kind of. They knocked the blades lightly on the turf. Clean. One bent to pluck. No, one bent over. See the preciseness from Joyce's writing. One of these gravediggers. One bent to pluck from the haft, which is probably the blade of this spade would be made of steel, and the top of it now, that's probably the top of that would be called HAFT, haft. One bent to pluck from the haft a long turf of grass. So the grass stuck there, a little bit of grass stuck to the top of the blade of this spade. So, but see the preciseness of Joyce's writing there. This is the way he completely paints the whole picture in your mind. One bent to pluck from the haft a long turf of grass. So there's a bit of grass stuck there to it, and he's just pulling it off. Anybody ever done any garden, they would, they'll be able to visualize that quite clearly. One leaving his mates. So one of these grave diggers is leaving his mates. Walked slowly on with shouldered weapon. Great writing from Joyce. Walked slowly on with shouldered weapon. Shoulder weapon is the spade on his shoulder. He's carrying it on his shoulder like a weapon, like you carry a gun basically. One walks slowly on with shoulder weapon. So he has the spade, on his shoulder basically. Its blade blue glancing. I don't know what he means by blue glancing there. The blade of the spade blue glancing. Could refer to the shine of the spade possibly. Silently at the grave head another one of these grave diggers. Silently at the grave head another kiled the coffin band. Joyce calls it the coffin band. When Joyce says the coffin band, what he's referring to here is, as I mentioned earlier, the two kind of bands. There'd be something similar to a rope, but like a flattened rope, if you could visualize that. One at the top of the coffin and one at the end of the coffin, where two people would lower the coffin into the hole basically. Silently at the grave head another kiled the coffin band. So one of these gravediggers is kiling the coffin band. He's rolling it up into a roll. That's what he's doing. Silently at the grave head another kiled the coffin band. His navel cord. That's what it's like a navel cord. Think about it. Silently at the grave head another kiled the coffin band. His navel cord. That's what it looks like. The brother-in-law. It's the brother-in-law. The brother-in-law of Paddy Dignam. Turning away. Place something in his free hand. The brother-in-law turning away placed something in his free hand. So he gave the brother-in-law here gave one of the grave diggers some money. Like a tip for this, for digging the hole and whatnot, the grave digger. So he gave him some kind of a tip. He gave him money. The brother-in-law, turning away, placed something in his free hand. So he gave to one of the grave diggers. He gave him money to be, divided among the other three grave diggers, possibly. Now, thanks in silence. So the gravedigger thanked him in silence. He didn't say, "Oh, thanks very much," because it's out of respect. Thanks. He just thanks in silence. He just said, "Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir, for your trouble." That's what he said in a very low voice, obviously. That's coming across here from these words. And a head shake. He gave a little head shake. Sorry, sorry, sorry for your trouble. Sorry this happened. Thanks in silence. Sorry, sir. Trouble. Head shake. I know that. This is what the brother-in-law would have said in a whisper. I know that. For yourselves, just. Now, the brother-in-law whispered, "For yourselves." Here's a tip for you, for yourselves, for you and the other three gravediggers. That's what's going on there. But that's only a line and a half of writing, but there's so much said there, and it's just said perfectly. Thanks in silence. Sorry, sir. Trouble. Head shake. I know that. For yourselves, just. So that's just great writing with Joyce there again. So moving on. The mourners moved away slowly, without aim, by devious path, staying a while to read a name on a tomb. "Let's go round by the chief's grave," Hines said. "We have time." "Let us," Mr. Power said. They turned to the right, following their slow thoughts. With awe, Mr. Power's blank voice spoke. "Some say he is not in the grave at all, that the coffin was filled with stones, that one day he will come back, that one day he will come again." Hines shook his head. Pernell will never come again," he said. "He is there, all that was mortal of him. Peace to his ashes." Peace to his ashes. Okay, now let me go back over that again. The mourners at this graveside, the mourners moved away slowly, without aim. So visualize them moving away from this graveside without aim. They're moving, without aim, by devious paths, staying a while to read a name on a tomb. So some of them stopped to read a name on a tombstone, reading a certain name, that's what people would do. "Let us go round by the chief's grave," Hines said. So Hines said, "Let us go round by the chief's grave. We have time. We have time yet. Let's go on by the chief here." The chief here is a nickname for Charles Stewart Parnell. As I mentioned before, Charles Stewart Parnell was a huge figure in Irish history, and Joyce was a huge fan of him, and also Joyce's father was a huge fan of Charles Stewart Parnell. And Charles Stewart Parnell is buried in this grave, in a cemetery. Joyce has this is the grave. this is the graveyard that James Joyce used in Ulysses, where one of his heroes, Charles Stewart Parnell, was buried. "Let us go round to the chief's grave," Hines said. "We have time." The chief is referring to Charles Stewart Parnell. "Let us," Mr. Power said. They turned to the right, following their slow thoughts. With awe, Mr. Power's blank voice spoke. "Some say he is not in that grave at all." So some say is not. So Mr. Power said, "Some say that Charles Stewart Parnell is not buried in the grave at all. Some say he is not in that grave at all. That the coffin was filled with stones. That one day he will come back." He's more or less saying that he's not dead at all. Hines shook his head. "Pernell will never come back," he said. "He's there, all that was mortal of him. Peace to his ashes." Now, so this Hines shook his head. Just visualize this Hines shaking his head, saying, No, you're wrong. Pernell will never come back," he said. "He's there, all that was mortal of him. Peace to his ashes." Now you can tell by that line and a half of writing there that Joyce just had such a fantastic time for Charles Stewart Parnell. For the simple reason, it's just what he says here. Parnell will never come back again. Joyce is more or less saying we're never going to see the likes of Charles Stewart Parnell again in this country. Parnell will never come back again, he said. "He's there, all that was mortal of him." Excuse me. Excuse me. Parnell will never come back in, he said. "He's there, all that was mortal of him." And you can nearly sense that there that Joyce's you can tell Joyce's love for Charles Stewart Parnell here, and he thought he was such a fantastic person, especially for Irish, for what he done for Irish people, Parnell will never come again. We'll never see the likes of him, more or less, he said. "He's there, all that was mortal of him. Peace to his ashes." That's just giving him great homage there, basically. Peace to his ashes. So I'm going to stop there again. Now, usually it's five sittings to get through an installment, but this is an extra 4 or 5 pages. Actually, extra 5 pages compared to the other installments. So, just seeing what I got through here. Where do we start? Okay, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. Close on 5 pages, but even if you only got through 1 pages in an hour, that's it could be good because there's so much content in each page. It's unbelievable. We're doing pretty well. Now we're up to page 99. We're halfway down on page 99, which is, when you get to reading 100 pages in Ulysses, that is definitely a milestone, and a cause for celebration, no doubt. Definitely a cause for celebration. People could give themselves a stripe, after getting to page 100 in Ulysses. Page 200, second stripe, and so on up to how many pages? 680. Up to 680 pages, so you can end up get 6 or 7 stripes, and then you'll be, yes, a Joyce connoisseur, no doubt. Yes, a Joyce connoisseur. A Joyce connoisseur. I'm not sure that I have a kind that phrase, Joyce connoisseur, but Joyce deserves a phrase like that. Now, actually, talking about kinding phrases, there is one phrase that I have kind, and it's in one of my short stories, which is also one I play. The phrase is impress your equal others. Well, the phrase I've actually kind is equal others. Impress your equal. The line reads, impress your equal others because you don't impress me. Now, what I mean by that is impress your equal others. Impress people like yourself because you don't impress me. So when anyone, if you ever hear the saying equal others, that is the phrase kind by me. It's in one of my short stories, also one I play from the book 9 Stories from Avalon. It's in there. Impress your equal others. Impress your equal others. And that's the one word, I think, actually. Equal others. It means people like yourself, but you don't impress me. Impress your equal others because you don't impress me. Equal others. That is a saying I've kind. Not boasting, man. But anyways, just before I go here, now we have to finish off this next this complete installment. 1.5, 2.5, 1, 2, 3 pages. We'll finish off this installment, and we'll be up to page 102, and it leads into a new chapter. And I'm just going to finish down the next section of this, and just give a brief, summary kind of. But I think we're going very well with this book, I mean, some people are reading books all their life, and I think, how can people basically go to their grave without, understanding possibly the greatest book ever written next to the Bible? The Bible, in my view, would be the greatest book ever written, and the next book would, one of the other greatest books ever written is Ulysses. And people that read frequently all the time, how can you say that you don't understand Ulysses? It's just, you have to say, yes, I understand Ulysses. Even though it takes time and all that, you can always say, go through all this book, yes, I understand Ulysses. And you're not going to be faking it, basically. As I said, Ulysses it's not a hugely difficult book to understand, but it definitely tests your visual intelligence, and that's the main thing, as I said before, in understanding Ulysses is if you have a good visual intelligence, you will understand Ulysses better than any academic, and I've said that time and time again, and I will continue to say it. Visual intelligence, that's really what comes into play in understanding Ulysses. And it doesn't matter if you went to school until you were 100 years of age, or you have a million doctorates, or so on and so forth. That doesn't come into it at all. Visual intelligence is the main thing you need understanding Ulysses and all Joyce's writing. There's a lot of things that I don't agree with in writing at all. I don't want to go into them right now, but there's there's a lot of things I just do not agree with in writing, and that's one of the main reasons that Emily Dickinson, the poet, is so misunderstood, so completely misunderstood. Her poems are, some of the explanations to some of Emily Dickinson's poems are, to put it bluntly, they're further out than the furthest lighthouse. Yeah, as simple as that. They're totally, some of the explanations are, they're actually in the textbooks out there. They're way off, way off, further out than the furthest lighthouse. I have to say what's on my mind, and I believe that. Before I go here, I just need to continue to plug my work, because, as I said at the start here, and I've said many a times, that most writers have layered PR firms, and they get interviews in newspapers and television and radio and so on and so forth, and they're being promoted by various art councils all over Ireland. I have nobody promoting me at all. I basically didn't even get an acknowledgement from any art council in Ireland yet, despite the fact I have written 11 one-night plays and 2 full-length plays, 4 complete nights of theatre with an overall cast of 87. Despite that mountain of work, which took me, I've been writing for over 15 years. Despite that mountain of work, I haven't even got a phone call from any arts council in Ireland, which I find actually very, very strange. I mean, here we are in Ireland trying to promote the arts, and especially trying to promote plays in this country and drama, and you hear constantly a lot of people in plays and drama here moaning and groaning about the Irish government not giving the arts enough money. I wonder at times where does, and the Irish government does give the arts a lot of money. It does give theatres a lot of money. It does give, directors get a lot of money here in this country in theatres and so on and so forth. And you'd wonder at times where does this money go to, because I'm just looking at myself, and I'm not just talking about myself, but I'm talking about other playwrights here in Ireland as well, that I have like 13 plays wrote, 4 complete nights of theatre. Now alone can I not even get them staged, but I haven't even got an acknowledgement from any arts council in Ireland, which is, I find, very strange. And here we are trying, and these people are always constantly trying to advocate the arts and playwriting and plays and so on and so forth. I haven't even got an acknowledgement or a phone call from anybody, and this is how we treat Irish playwrights. I think it's very strange. It actually is very strange. What incentive is there for me to continue writing plays when I wrote 4 complete nights of theatre and I can't get a theatre to stage them, and I haven't even got any kind of help from any arts council in Ireland. Who are they helping? I would like to know, and I would like to know these other playwrights that are availing of all these funds in bursary awards and what. I would like to see their volume of work. This seems to be kept very hush hush, and I do hope that the Minister for Arts, who's a very fine lady, she's not long on the job, but I do really hope she takes a close look and looks at the whole theatre world in Ireland from top to bottom, because it leaves a lot to be desired, basically. My experience with it, it's there's a lot more I could say on this subject, but I don't want to bore listeners here. But I think it is very strange that I haven't even got an acknowledgement. I'm not looking for any acknowledgement, but I haven't even got any kind of not even a phone call from the arts, any of the theatre crowd in Galway, from anybody. I find it very strange. I've written 13 plays, 4 complete nights of theatre. I just find it very strange. It's bizarre, actually, to be honest. And I mean, do they expect me to continue writing plays, or I'm at the moment I'm in semi-retirement from writing plays because this is the way I've been treated. But it definitely will not deter me. I have a lot of ideas in mind for theatre in this country, and I hope to fulfil them. And these ideas are going to incorporate a complete challenge to the theatre world, not alone in Galway, but in Ireland, actually. So until the next section of this installment, I'm going to sign off. I would like to thank all listeners for listening, and I thank you very much for your patience and whatnot. And until next time, goodbye.